Hello again and welcome to another After Action report with me, Mordian Glory, as your host. So, it's going to be slightly different. I didn't take Imperial Guard down to the club this week. Instead, I took my World Eaters, my Chaos Space Marines. And instead I played against Imperial Guard because I've find one of the best ways to learn about your own army is to play against someone else, and then you can see the weaknesses in the army, and you see the mistakes that someone else makes, and then you can make sure you can learn from that and incorporate what you learn from that into your own tactics. So, for example, one of the things that I hadn't faced in 8th edition, was sort of a mass Rhino Rush kind of army. I've faced Marines, and I've faced Knights, and I've faced Orcs. I've faced pretty much everything. But I hadn't actually just faced a good old-fashioned Rhino Rush. Now, my opponent had recently got an Imperial Guard army. He wasn't a bandwagon player. He had actually been collecting Imperial Guard for about 2 months before 8th edition came out. So, not a complete bandwagon player. But he wanted to obviously learn with his army, and I wanted to find out ways of beating Imperial Guard so that then I could learn how to stop that. And one of the things that, a lot of people have been poo-pooing rhinos, poo-pooing transports, saying they're kind of useless, they're kind of shit. And I wanted to find out for myself if that was the case. So there's sort of two prongs to this sort of learning experience in this battle pool. One was, how does the Imperial Guard fare against a hard-hitting, fast-moving assault army? And generally speaking, how are transports, how are they in 8th edition? Because, a lot of Guard players have got a lot of Chimeras, and we need to see if they're an effective delivery system. So, his list was roughly 2 units of 30 conscripts, a couple of infantry squads, 3 officers, I can't remember if they were junior or senior, and 3 commissars. And then he had 3 wyverns, 2 sentinels, 3 Lehman Russ punishers, and a shadow sword. So he had a lot of armour, and he had bubble wrapped it in, about 80 infantry, which isn't too bad. It wasn't a bad list. Now, my list was kind of just thrown together. I took 4 units of Khorne Berserkers. Each unit had Icon of Wrath, so I could reroll charges, and had a Power Fist on the Sergeant, and some chain axes in each. There was 2 squads with basically just chain axes, and 2 squads with just chain swords. That's just how it worked out. I kind of threw the list together. So I had 4 units of Berserkers, some chain axes, Power Fist, Icon of Wrath, and then I had 2 units of Chaos Space Marines, and I had a plasma gun and a heavy bolter in each squad, and a plasma pistol on the sergeant. And then I had a Demon Prince of Khorne with 2 sets of claws, because if you take a Demon Prince of Khorne with 2 sets of claws, you have 8 attacks. Because if you have 2 sets of claws, it gives you +3 attacks. So I should say, a Demon Prince is 4 attacks base. He gets +1 for being a Demon of Khorne, because you can't use magic, so instead he gets +1 attack. And then he also gets +3 having 2 sets of claws. So I didn't bother with the Hellforged sword, I just took 2 sets of claws. So 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s at, a high strength and a decent AP. So, real nasty motherfucker. And then I took some Chaos Lords. I took, I think, 3 Chaos Lords. Yes, I took 3 Chaos Lords because I had 4 HQ and 6 troop choices, and then I split that down into 2 battalions, so that I had 9 command points, because I wanted as many command points as possible, because you know me, I love command points. Also, I was kind of worried about battle shock on my berserkers and my marines, so I needed to be able to pass lots of battle shock phases. Now, I had turn 1 because he had about 16 drops or so, and because of all those officers. And so turn 1, I just gunned everything towards him. I didn't advance because it was. Oh, by the way, mission was Relic, deployment was Dawn of War. So I thought I was going to struggle for Relic because he has more infantry than me and he has more units. So what I did is I split my army into two forces. One was a group of berserkers, 2 units of space marines, and a chaos lord, and they just went down the center for the relic. And then I deployed 3 units of corn berserkers and rhinos. I should say every unit had a rhino. So 3 units of rhinos, corn berserkers and rhinos, with 2 chaos lords and a demon prince. And they're on the left-hand side. So I had a refused flank. Turn 1, everything guns it forward. And I do sporadic fire with my combi bolters. I put 2 combi bolters and a havoc launcher on every vehicle, so I had a bit of firepower. So I do some sporadic damage here and there, kill sort of 15 conscripts and a heavy weapons team they had. He had a single heavy weapons team. In his return fire, the Shadow Sword absolutely annihilates 1 rhino and takes another one down to about half wounds. So that was interesting. The rest of his firepower didn't do as much as I expected. My rhinos were actually really, really good at just absorbing small arms. Punisher cannons, between them, the Punisher cannons just bounced off most of my rhinos just because they were hitting on 4s, because they were just normal Punishers. They were hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s thanks to Harkus or Tank Commanders, or Tank Commander orders, but not hitting a lot, and then mostly bouncing off because you had to hit wound on 5s, and then my 3+ armor stopped a lot of it. Same with his conscripts. His conscripts were doing some, overall though, long story short, he annihilated 1 Leman Russ, took another one down to half wounds, and then did about 2 or 3 wounds on the other, not Leman Russes. Annihilated 1 Rhino, took another one down to half wounds, and then did about 1 to 3 wounds on every other Rhino with his small arms. So, not a huge deal. He also absolutely, with the squad that piled out of the Rhino that got annihilated, he wyverned them down to just the Sergeant with the Power Fist. So that was pretty scary. Wyverns are really good. However, my turn 2, I get out of my transport, and then I move, because you disembark 3 inches and then move 6. Tell me if I'm wrong, that's what I thought you did. Wouldn't have made a huge distance anyway, because I was so close to him. Got out, moved across this whole line, combi bolters, havoc launchers, bolt pistols, plasma guns, bolt guns, heavy bolters, everything. Did a really nice close range volley, made quite large holes in his units, and then multi-charged everything. The only things I didn't multi-charge were was his tank commander and his shadow sword. Everything else in his army got charged. Everything, including his characters. I charged through his units into I made gaps in his units, and then charged through them to or gaps in his lines, I should say. I made gaps in his lines, and then charged through them to get the characters behind. And then Berserkers, oh my god. New respect for the Berserker guys. Berserkers just went to town. I mean, they've got 2 attacks each base anyway. Then they get +1 attack for having a chain sword. Not if they've got a chain axe, but 2 attacks. So that's 3 attacks. Then they get to fight twice, because that's what Blood for the Blood God special rule. And then, against Imperial Guard, the Death to the False Emperor rule kicked in, which meant any 6s I got generated another attack. So it was, basically every Berserker was getting 7 attacks, because they did, roughly 6 attacks each. One of those was about a 6 each time. 7 attacks. It balanced out. Some guys didn't get any 6s. Some guys got multiple 6s. It balanced out. But roughly, my Berserkers were laying down 7 attacks each. And And chain axes are actually surprisingly good at getting through tank armor. And yeah, it was just crazy. They're all re-rolling wands because of Chaos Lords or Demon Princes. Oh, it was brutal. Anyway, my turn 2, basically what happened was I killed all his conscripts, all his infantry, most of his characters, and tied up all his other units in combat. His turn 2, he has to fall back, but he's only got like 2 units he can fight with. He does some damage, but not a lot. And then my turn 3, I just get into combat with everything. And I kill all the wyverns, take both Leman Russes. All 3 Leman Russes took a significant amount of damage. Didn't kill any of them, but did a significant amount of damage to each one. And then the Shadow Sword did like 3 wounds too. But at the end of my turn 3, all he had left was... He didn't have his Sentinels left. He had 1 Sentinel left, 3 Punisher tanks and Shadow Sword. That's all he had left. And then it was all tied up. So the only thing that could have shot at me was his Shadow Sword. And it was done alright, but without any Titanic targets to shoot at, it hadn't done, like, amazingly. So, I won that game. I claimed skulls for the Skull Throne. Some of my guard commanders that watch the channel will be shaking their heads, accusing me of heresy. It's fair enough. Have to admit, I do sometimes dabble in the dark arts of chaos, but you guys know at heart I am a guard commander. And because of that, I want to say a few lessons that I learned as a guard commander from this battle. Number 1, transports are good. I know a lot of people have been complaining about transports being really, really expensive, but I think they are very powerful. I think they are actually worth it. And I think they're worth it for the guard, because what I noticed was in my turn 2, when I unloaded everyone, if that had been Imperial Guard, I would have been in rapid fire range with all my guns with 10, let's say about 10 squads. If I had I could have easily had 10 Chimeras and been in rapid fire range with about 10 squads. That would have been, combine that with orders and, re-rolling wands and, various bits and bobs and overcharging and stuff. That would have been an absolutely amazing point blank volley of firepower. I mean, I noticed how much damage I was doing when I was using a close combat army, and I noticed how much damage I was doing in my point blank shooting with like bolt pistols and stuff. So transports are actually really good. I have 7 Chimeras and 3 Tauroxes. My next game that I'm thinking of doing, my next experiment, I'm going to take all those units, 3 Taurox Prime, 7 Chimera units. I'm going to load up on veterans and stuff, and I'm just going to drive forward, and then turn 2, get out and do a point blank volley fire with like 100 guys. Scions, rapid fire ranging, veterans rapid fire ranging. I'm just going to see what happens, because I think that would be really deadly. Now, I know Chimeras don't hit very well, but I think that there's a lot of potential there. So guys, lesson learned. Transports might be expensive, but I'm getting the feeling they're going to be really worth it. So all you mech commanders out there that were a little bit upset by the reveals for 8th edition, I would be quietly confident. Number 2 lesson I learned is that if someone does Rhino Rush you as an Imperial Guard commander, if you're an Imperial Guard commander and someone Rhino Rushes you, basically be prepared to just lose 100 guys in one turn. Just make sure you've got another 100 guys behind that. I think my opponent would have easily won that game if he dropped a Wyvern and a Punisher and taken another 100 conscripts and had those 100 conscripts behind his front line. And what he should have done is just written off his front line as just acceptable casualties. Any survivors, just fall them back from the initial charge and then just gunned me down front rank fire, second rank fire. That's what I think he should have done. But as it was, once I got through that juicy line of infantry, which wasn't hard to do, it was not hard for me to kill, 30 to 40 guardsmen at point blank range with pistols and combi bolters. once I was through, I was into the juicy guts of his army, and it was over. I knew basically from my turn 2 charge, I knew I'd won the game, and I think my opponent knew it as well. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think. Of course, leave any comments. Have you been Rhino rushed? How have you dealt with it? What tactics have you come up with? And what experiences have you had with transports? So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.